The tracks led you to a cave just north of town. This cave started off like most caves, except after a while the cavern started to narrow and twist in upon itself, overlapping, making sure that no exterior light were to shine in. The only way forward was to rely on torchlight. Eventually, the path opened up into a wider chamber with seemed to be some sort of column in the middle. Resting against this column was a goblin corpse. Eyes fixed down one passage, while the tracks you followed led down another, more worked passage. The end of this passage, so unnaturally worked in this natural cave, contained a door with a visible keyhole, but no key nearby. What do you do? Hey everybody, it's your favorite blue-collar nerd, Richard, once again with a tabletop role-playing video. Although we are taking our first foray into Dungeons and Dragons specifically with this video. Now, I just wanted to show you guys some cool stuff I had worked on. What you just saw was actually the opening puzzle and exploration bit of the multi-level dungeon that I currently have my party running through. This was the first puzzle they had to solve in order to enter said dungeon. And I didn't give you guys all the hints and stuff, but I wanted to set the tone for what kind of stuff you could see in games, especially if you have some seasoned DM and some really, really inventive players. Honestly, they have a lot of fun with it, and, you know, I don't know what else to say about that. It's just a lot of fun, and honestly, if I could get them here to talk about it, they'd probably be able to convince you guys that it's a worthwhile venture. But we have to talk about Dungeons and Dragons today. And so, I have a bit of an idea. But for that, we're going to have to take a little perspective shift. So, let's go ahead and do that. Alright, let's get this out of the way. In order to play Dungeons & Dragons, there are a couple things you need. Most importantly is the player's handbook. Now, you really just need reliable access to a copy of the book. For that, I suggest the physical copy. You can buy a copy from Wizard's own website and at various booksellers for the price of $49.95 American dollars. That sounds a little steep. And it is. I mean, there's not much I could tell you other than if you want a physical copy, the next best option is to look on Amazon, because you will find it $20 cheaper there. Kind of up to you on how you want to do this. But you need access to this book in order to play. And really, for your party, you only need access to one book. So if everyone chips in, $5, then you can buy one book and share it amongst all of you. And everyone will have the same amount of fun. Great, great. Now, let's say you're not playing in person, but you're playing online. What then? Well, you're still going to need a copy of the book. So you might have to shell out for the book yourself. Or there is Fantasy Grounds, which has full Wizards of the Coast support. Now, they offer the book digitally on Fantasy Grounds, and you can buy it for $29.99. And this comes with extra features like being able to drag and drop classes, features, and whatnot straight onto your digital character sheet. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Makes building that character and customizing it very fast, simple, and you can get back to the important stuff, which is actually playing. but that's still a bit of a steep price. Now, they do offer bundles where you can buy multiple books that are seen as important. But here's the problem. I have zero experience with Fantasy Grounds. And as such, I don't really want to shell out money for this, especially if I already own the book myself. So, I don't know, maybe in the future if I start playing online, I'll look into it more, but right now, it's just not an option. But that might be a better option for you. Well, let me know what you think. Now, there is one last thing I have to talk about, which is Wizards' own policy on copyright. So I can't really show you what's inside the book because a couple reasons. One, there's no official PDFs that I can show you, so show you digital pages is out. I can't take pictures of the book and show you that because, I mean, that's also contributing to piracy. So I don't want to deal with any legal repercussions. So you're just going to have to trust me when I say some of these things about what's in the book. So what can I show you then? Well, I'm so glad you asked. You see, the player's handbook is ultimately about making and playing characters. And so to do that, you need something to represent your character. This is a character sheet. This is for an NPC I'm running in my campaign. He's kind of important. Regardless, we can show you some stuff about how the rules break down. So as far as an actual character goes, it's a breakdown of these 6 ability scores, which go down the list: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. These all represent how good you are at this ability. You know, the higher the number, the better. So going down this list, we can see that this character named Anton, he's very strong. He's kind of dexterous. He's kind of maneuverable. Decent constitution, bad intelligence, okay wisdom, and good charisma. That's all you really need to get from that. These numbers don't mean much more than that. So don't get bogged down by the numbers. They're just a scale of 1 to 20 how good you are at something. Just keep that in your head. Alright, then we have other stuff. We have skills, which are individual number crunchy bits to tell you how the game runs. Alright, since I'm talking about numbers a bunch, I figure this is as good a time as any to jump into this. So, dice are kind of an important part of the game. It's just the way it goes. Now, not just any dice will do. We have role-playing dice, which consists of variable size. Polyhedron is the word used. And we refer to these based on a number of how many sides the die has. Starting from a D20, this has 20 sides, to a D12. I'm losing focus, okay. A D10, which often comes with a pair known as a percentile. You roll these together to get a D100. You don't use that very often. A D8, a D6, or as most people know it, a regular die, and a D4. Those of us in the business know this one as "don't step on me barefoot." Don't do it. So, the core gameplay designed for Dungeons & Dragons is the player says, I want to do something. The Dungeon Master says, okay, that constitutes a skill roll of some kind. Like, I want to try to tame this wild horse I just found. Okay, well, the Dungeon Master will then say, well, I need you to roll animal handling. The Dungeon Master is going to determine how hard this should be. The player is going to roll that die. and then add the relevant modifier or relevant skill, in this case animal handling, to the die roll. Now I'm just going to make an assumption here. This guy's trying it. He probably thinks he's pretty good at it, so he's probably going to have like a +4 to his animal handling. So this turns this 14 into an 18. Okay, and now the DM maybe decided, okay, this is probably going to take a difficulty of 16 to try to tame this horse. Well, in this scenario, player wins. Player gets to tame that horse. That is the nitty-gritty of how the moment-to-moment gameplay goes. Just the player says, I want to do something, and the DM says, okay, how hard should this be, and is this related to a skill? Now let's go back to the character sheet. So you might be asking, well, so how do I determine how good I am at a skill? Well, your skills are determined by a couple things. The first is your base ability score. Going in that animal handling example, it's tied to wisdom, as you can see right there next to the animal handling skill. Cool? Cool. So we have a wisdom of 13, which has a smaller number here. This is called the modifier. Now, the modifier is the actual important number for moment-to-moment gameplay. The modifier is based on a chart present in the player's handbook in the very first chapter. Again, you kind of need the book. Just trust me, it's there. Regardless, we got to move forward. So Anton here has a +1 to animal handling. So Anton is not very good at animal handling. I mean, he's not terrible. At least it's not a negative to that die roll. But that +1 came from his wisdom stat, which, if you're curious and you have a copy of the player's handbook, the chart for how you get these modifiers is on page 13. It tells you if your ability score is this number, you get this number. It's literally that's literally how it goes. All right, from there we have other stuff in here. You see Anton is a paladin level 5. He also has personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. Those of you who are repeat customers to the channel, welcome back. You might recognize I talked about this as an overarching theme about characters. And that's because I truly believe this is a great way to organize a character's basic idea. You have these one-sentence truths about the character and how they view the world. And this is how you can play them. Now, this allows you to focus the story of this character and how they respond to things. But with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, you use that in conjunction with your skills to actually make impacts on the world through the help of your Dungeon Master. Again, I think this goes back to the very first video, but you need friends to play these games. Get some friends. Alright. From there, there's all kinds of features that are from the class and race, which Anton is a human. Humans are kind of weird in Dungeons & Dragons. They're big. You're going to have to trust me when I say things like this, but pretty much each individual race and class could be its own video. We can't go into detail about this now. For now, you just have to understand that you have the character. You have the numbers which determine how good this character is at doing things, and you have written motivations into the character to give the character a clear goal. From there, your Dungeon Master is going to build a story and hopefully challenge your goal and motives, and also challenge you with these skill rolls. And then you just meet once a week, drink some beer, and have a good time. Roll some dice. This is how you play Dungeons and Dragons.
And I don't really know what else to say. In order to play Dungeons and Dragons, you just have to get into your head that you're making a character that's going on a fantasy adventure. And that adventure is going to vary based on DM and the players. DM's going to have most of the control, but he's going to also look for input from the players if he's at all good at his job in any little bit. So, like I've been saying from the beginning, it's collaborative storytelling. It's just that the rules have been written out in a way to allow for disambiguation. That's a big $10 word, right? Now, it's clear, concise, and simple. I can't stress that enough. If you want to play, find people who are already playing or are also interested in playing. So that's the video this week. You may be convinced to play. You might not be convinced to play. If you're looking for more reason to actually try it, consider this. Dungeons & Dragons was the precursor to modern RPGs. What does that mean? Final Fantasy would not have existed if Gary Gygax didn't create this in his basement. Yeah. So what does that mean if, say, you don't care about tabletop, but you like video games, like, say, Call of Duty or anything else? Especially games with progression systems. Role-playing games. See where I'm going with this? Ah, good. You can actually use what you know about playing these games on a tabletop to make games digitally. How do I know this? Well, maybe I should show you one of my projects. Maybe. But I think that's going to wait till next week. So, if you like this video, like it, leave a comment, subscribe, share, stick around for more because I'm keeping this train rolling all through the year. See you next week. Bye.